Hi, everyone. This is Craig Zalzer and Catalina Rojas from PCDN Global. We're delighted to be streaming with you today with our amazing guest, Balkis Chaabane, who is a MA student at the Lebanese American University, an innovator and serial fellowship holder. And before we get started, this is a continuation of our Social Change Career podcast. So what we're doing is doing it live. We're changing the format. So this is streamed to both our YouTube and LinkedIn channels. This is sponsored or supported by the Rotary Peace Fellowship, which is one of the coolest fellowships in the world for impact professionals. And they provide 130 fellowships per year, about half for master's students and half for certificate programs at one of 8 partner universities in the world. So we will share that link in the show notes, both on LinkedIn and YouTube. Please check it out. Balkis is a native of Tunisia. She is the founder of the leading Impact Institute, a Jew think tank focused on the MENA region, policy and youth participation and capacity building. She's currently a Tomorrow Leaders graduate scholar funded by the US Department of State, doing her MA at the Lebanese American University. And she has worked and consulted. I'm going to go answer the door. So Kata, our son has just come home. So, okay, Kata's going to answer the door. I'm sorry, our son has come home from school a little bit late. So she has consulted and worked with a wide variety of international and local organizations, including the UN Institute of Peace, IREX, and many other institutions. And we're delighted that she's taken time when it's later, her time in Lebanon. And so Balkis, can you start off, can you tell us why everyone should at least consider fellowships as part of their career path?
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really one of the first guests on this live podcast. So applying for fellowships is really important. And if I want to summarize it quickly, I would say it's important for 2 main reasons. First of all, fellowships, obviously, they help you advance your career because you get hands-on practical experience to go with your studies. You expand your network, you meet other fellows in your same field or maybe from different fields. And of course, you get a chance to fund your work and your studies as learning other soft skills. But the second really, for me at least, is a very important reason is that when you apply to a fellowship or anything, honestly, you get to learn through the application process. Because when you apply, of course, you need to polish your writing skills. You want to make sure that it falls under the specific research interest that you have. So maybe if you don't have any, that will push you to think of a couple. And it teaches you how to tell your story, how to show yourself to the world. And so it's very beneficial, like I said, because it helps you to improve academically and professionally, but at the same time, the application process in itself, helps you advance in your work and learn a lot of things. And actually, I have a funny story about this. I have a friend who applied with me to a scholarship before. And after we submitted the application, we received an email that said, "Congratulations on submitting your application." And so my friend texted me and she was like, "Why are they congratulating me on submitting the application? It's a simple step." And I told her it's actually because it's a very long process that helps you learn a lot. And so it is really important. You need to be congratulated for submitting an application. And so, yeah, fellowships really add a lot to your profile.
Thank you, Balkis. And I like your point of learning through the application, which takes away the pressure of like winning it. But let's be real here. After all, we're back in the podcast and we have to get real. So if I were to ask you, Balkis, 3 main tips for making an application, it's not guaranteeing, but what can you tell us that are like the 3 top things to making as good a application as any? Oops.
Let's see, we might have lost Balkis for a minute. Let's see if she comes back.
She will come back.
Yes, I mean, I think she was on her phone device. I'm gonna message her on WhatsApp.
Sorry, my internet lagged there for a bit. So the 3 main tips for a fellowship. Can you still hear me?
Yep.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, we can hear you well.
So the 3 main tips for a fellowship, I would say 1 would be to actually find a fellowship. Yeah, find a fellowship that truly falls under your research interest, because it wouldn't really make
Okay, we're having a little bit of technical difficulties, so hopefully Balkis can come back and join us. While we're waiting, I will make
Welcome to the joys of video. Craig, can we say a little bit about, first of all, my listeners were used to listen to Where Are We? So season 9, episode 1. So this is, please tell us what you
she's
think of
coming
it,
back.
obviously.
Hi. Sorry about
Okay.
that. My internet disconnected.
No problem.
So yeah, the 3 main tips for applying for fellowships. One, I would say, make sure that the fellowship you apply for actually fits your interest. It makes sense if, let's say, you're looking for something in peace and you apply for a management fellowship. So it has to be something that really fits your profile. Even, if you apply for many and you think the more you apply for, the more chances you have, it's not really the case. It's better to have a very well-tailored application for one fellowship than just to apply to random many other fellowships. The second one will be make sure that you have a really captivating way to tell your story, because at the end of the day, yes, scores matter, CV matters, experience matters, of course, but the way you tell your story through a personal statement, and any fellowship has that, whether they call it personal statement, short essay, they make it questions, it's their way to learn more about you as a person. Besides all the practical stuff that you send them. And so make sure that you have a very compelling story to tell and that it really came from your aspirations and your interest. That's the second tip. And the third tip, I know it's very basic, but really make sure that you have a very well polished CV, that your personal statement doesn't have any typos, any mistakes, that your letters of recommendation are written by those who are experts in the field, or at least someone will recommend you very well. I know this seems very obvious, but very often, and I've worked before with IREX with their CEE program as part of the selection committee. And when I read through the essays, some of the things I noticed that many applicants don't proofread before they send the application. And that really shows a lack of interest and commitment, and it doesn't leave a good impression. So as obvious and cliche as that might seem, make sure that all the documentation you're sending is at least doesn't have any error and very well polished, I would say.
Okay.
Well,
I'm gonna jump in with the next question. And I worked at IREX 25 years ago, so always, and do reviews for them too. So one question is, I've applied for lots of fellowships, and my first fellowship was a mentor advised me to apply was for Fulbright, which I was lucky to get for 2 years. And I've been rejected many times and also had success. So are you open to sharing some metrics from your own experience, or when you advise others, how to go about dealing with rejection or success? And do you have any numbers that, if you're a strong candidate, you might get every 20% of applications or 1%?
Yeah, I would say it really depends on how competitive the application is. Obviously, if you're applying, let's say, to the US, if you're applying to Harvard versus another maybe state university will be very different. I myself have had a lot of rejections as well. And I know when we see anybody's LinkedIn profile or CV, and think they're very successful. Nobody, if you think about LinkedIn, it's where you share your achievements, not really your rejections, right? So if we look at it, you'll see that it's actually a lot of people have been rejected many times before they've been accepted. And same with me. And an example I give, it's actually about 2 years ago, I applied to a lot of master's programs in Ivy League schools and non-Ivy League schools across the US. And I literally got, and I remember this very well, I got 13 rejections in the same 2 weeks before I actually get my acceptance into a really high, a top school in my program. And so it's fine to be rejected. It is frustrating. I'm not going to lie. I did cry and I was frustrated. But at the end of the day, you can't really do anything about it. You've put all of your effort, you've polished your resume and everything. You wrote very compelling personal statement. But at the end of the day, we don't always get what we're accepted, what we want to be accepted for. And that's fine, because that's a chance for you to work again on what you sent. And like I said, it's a learning process. And so now, if I want to apply for different programs again, I have more knowledge than when I applied 2 years ago, because I know what I did wrong. My whole mindset has changed. And this is why, like, the more you apply for fellowships that really fit your interests, the better it is. And so rejection is never really bad. It's just something like a step for us that we have to go through. And recently, I actually saw on LinkedIn a very nice initiative someone started. She posted her CV of rejections. And it was a really cool idea because she wrote down everything. And I mean, this was like 13, 14 page resume or CV, where she put all of the positions she applied for and she was rejected from. And she has a really good job. And that post went viral, and a lot of people commented. And it was such a great idea to show others that, even if you're a top expert in your field, you have definitely been rejected. No human being has never been rejected for anything, so it's normal.
Okay, you want to go next, Kanta?
Well, we had a very specific order, and Dr. Salazar is not following, but that's okay. He tends to do that. Craig, according to what we had planned together, see the problems of co-hosting something. I'm missing the days when I was on my own. We were talking about networking, and if you have followed any of the PCDN webinars or conversations we've had about networking, I've written about how I don't like networking, and we all know that Dr. Salazar, it's amazing at networking. So he had prepared a question, but it's okay. Um, Balkis, we have developed a relationship, but it is my understanding that both you and Craig share that ability to do networking. So tell us a little bit about the same way that you told us about why fellowships are pivotal to anyone's career. Why do you bother doing networking? You're also not a white man, clearly. You have you come from a different culture like me. How do you navigate the cultural differences from the Western Americanized way of networking? Yeah, what are your secrets for all things networking by Balkis?
Yeah. Networking is essential, unfortunately, even if we do not like doing it. And I always say, just like human beings, we need to be in a society, we need to be social to stay mentally sane. You also need networking for your career so that you expand. It is intimidating, I'm not going to lie. I myself found it very hard to start. Sometimes, even right now in events, I still find it hard to network, to talk to people. But the thing about networking is that you have to do it. You have to practice. The more you do it, the better you become at it. And so really it comes with practice. And I would say having maybe networking with people from different countries is challenging, and there is really no perfect, like, I can't really give you a theory of how to do it perfectly. It depends on the setting, the people you're with, the age range, whether it's formal, it's not. You just really have to let yourself be out there, because when you are reserved and you're in a corner, you don't want to talk, people feel your energy. And even if someone would want to talk to you, they will refrain from doing that because they wouldn't feel that you're welcoming. And so make sure that you put yourself out there so that others do network with you. And now online, it's actually a really great time to network. I personally have met many people, Craig included, through LinkedIn, I believe. LinkedIn for me has been the main platform for networking. It's a great way to make connections with anyone really in your field. One thing also I do all the time, whenever I have a connection on LinkedIn, and I see that, for example, they went to school I want to go to, or they worked in an organization I want to work in, or just their profile, falls under my interest, I do send them a message and I see if they're interested in doing an introductory call. And I've done that with many, many people I'm still now friends with. For years actually. And when someone asks me, how did you meet them, they're across the world, I would say it started honestly with a LinkedIn message, and then we became friends. So that's very important. And networking also online, you can do it through events you attend. You can do it being part of bigger organizations. You can even do it through, PCDN, your platform, the Global Career Campus that you guys created is a really great opportunity to mix with everyone. So it's very important to do it. You have to put yourself out there. If not, honestly, your career will shrink and will die with time. And I guess, after really highlighting the importance of doing it, one last tip I would give is that, especially now if we're talking about in-person networking events, let's say you met a group of people, they're very inspirational, they come from the global north, you want to connect with them, and you talk to them, their energy was great, they were welcoming. Make sure you follow up with them after the event, because it's very easy to talk to people, make friendships during the event wherever you are, but then you all go back home and you forget about each other. So make sure you add them on LinkedIn, request their emails, ask them for coffee if they're in your country still or you're in theirs. You cannot lose contact with the person that you met. So that's very, very important in networking in general.
So a follow-up question, which professional networks, you've talked about PCN and LinkedIn, what other professional networks, whether formal or informal, do you encourage other people to explore joining? Is there a professional association? You have your favorite LinkedIn groups, but where do you recommend people go if they're not sure? There's individual networking, but more the professional.
Yeah, I would say, for me, honestly, Google has always been my best friend. And so I literally Google my field and I add network to it or group to it. And then it actually shows you groups that you can join or organizations that you can join. And that's very helpful because your network can also be built through work. It can be built through the fellowship you're part of, your community. It can be built through volunteering. Whatever it is, like I said, the secret is to put yourself out there, to reach out so that you can hear back. You can't really, you don't open the door if someone doesn't knock, right? And so you have to put yourself out there so that you can find networks.
Okay, my turn to ask, moving a little bit away from networking, but I was thinking like if Craig were to have a successor for his networking abilities, that would be you. Um, but now I want to talk about, because at PCDN we call ourselves PCDN.global, and we mean it. We want this PCDN not only to be a place for the advancement of people in the global north, but we want to work with, help, but also highlight the trajectory of global southern professionals like yourself. We have friends and members of the Career Campus in various regions in Africa and Latin America. And you're from the MENA region, originally from Tunisia, but working and doing your master's in Lebanon. But in your CV, and Craig didn't do justice, partly because I told him you better be quick. You have worked with a number of U.S. Governmental and private organizations, currently State Department funding, your master's degree. Tell us a little bit how, as a young professional from the global south, you insert yourself in global northern organizations, and what tips you offer for professionals like us.
Yeah, sure. Funny enough, it actually started with a fellowship. I got to be an exchange student to do my 1 year of studies in the US. So that helped me kind of being in the global north itself, helped me make connections. But it really started with me wanting to go for that opportunity and applying for that fellowship. And the way I make connections, it's really like networking. What I used to do, I remember a couple of years ago, is that for example, I'm interested in peace building. I would literally go on Google and I did many, many hours of research, and I would try to find organizations that do work I would be interested in. And then I would email them and tell them that I'm interested in their work. Is there any way to get involved? Whether volunteering, whether working, whatever it is, I'm really interested. Like, I want to learn. And I emailed, believe me, more than 300 at least organizations. Of course, I didn't hear from many of them, but I did hear back from a couple, and I started volunteering with them. And this was actually before COVID. And so when I did it online for everyone, the idea was very odd. many responded back saying, how can you volunteer with us online? We don't have anything to do, it has to be in person, etc. In some organizations, I actually funded their online internship program. By finding that they had the basis already to work on it to further develop it when COVID happened. But before COVID, working online or remotely, whenever I suggested it, was a very unusual idea for many organizations. And so through doing that work, through building my network, I got to know many other people. I also was very selective in the organizations I invest my time in. First of all, because of the time difference, it meant I had to work late nights, but also because I was doing a lot. And so I wanted to invest my time in something that I really, really care about. And lucky enough, I ended up with great colleagues, with great supervisors who also connected me to different organizations. And so it's a thread, basically. And like I said, with networking, you have to start somewhere. Once you put yourself out there, you really get a lot of responses, and you'll be surprised how many people would love to work with you and get to know you. So that was mainly my strategy, honestly. I didn't rely on anything except literally for Google research and reaching out through email. That's basically it.
So I'm going to ask a follow-up question, Balkis, and then someone put a question from Lincoln Benjamin, so we'll get to your comment and question. So one thing is, with the internet, we have access to unlimited information, and many people in the 90s thought we were going to have this utopia of democratic access, and there's a lot of fake information now. So if you're looking at online opportunities, how do you vet, because one, there's some unethical organizations, but also there's some that might want to do harm. So how do you, if you're looking for opportunities, how do you vet them, whether it's a scholarship or conference? Like, what's your advice to know if it's legitimate?
Yeah, that's a very good question, because truly there are many places out there that aren't the best to work with. Typically, what I do is that I try to go to their About Us section, where they write information about what their work they do, what's their history, etc. So I make sure that it's actually a legit goal that they're working towards and that they're committed to it. And then I try to also look at the staff, honestly. And after I find some staff names, I would look them up on LinkedIn. In terms of the organization as well, I go and look at their social media profiles. I try to find if they have a LinkedIn profile to see what they share. And I write the name of the organization in Google and I add review to it to see if anything has been written about them before. And so because it is online, there is a lot that can be said, like you explained now, and a lot of fake information. But you really have to make sure that you do your own research in trying to find more information. But social media, for me at least, has been a really great tool. Social media and LinkedIn, both of them, a really great tool to assess whether that organization is authentic, to look up their staff, to understand what they really do. So I don't directly email them. I actually do some of my research first.
Okay, thank you so much. And I just saw on LinkedIn this week, someone said, I don't remember which field, but said someone is using my name to promote a fake conference. I have no affiliation with it. So, even if it sounds too good, I agree with, like, do your own investigation. If they ask for your bank account information, run away, unless it's like a final stage. And so doing the due diligence is really important. So there's a comment, which I'll put here, from Benjamin, if you want to respond to that. And then Kata, if you want to go next.
Sure.
So Benjamin says, on the point of networking, how important are languages to building a career oriented around the MENA region, coming from someone who's not native, but working on learning French and Arabic?
Yeah, language is definitely important. It's really a point of access to many different cultures out there. And language barrier, I've worked with places before where I really felt the language barrier, and it's not nice, honestly, because it makes you feel very shy and not willing to put yourself out there. For the region, luckily, many people speak English. If it's not their second language, it's probably their third language. And, just saying that you're learning French or Arabic and making the effort is more than enough, really, to have people interested in what you do, to help you to really just build a network with them. And so like I said, luckily we all speak English, and so if you speak English as a native, it's not really a problem for you. But just put out there that you are learning the language of that region, that you're interested. You're not just coming there imposing your own native and asking everyone to speak to you in that language. Show them that you're open, you're willing, you are actually in the process of learning that language. And I'm sure everyone will encourage you. It's very nice to hear that someone, is interested in your culture, speaks your language. It's always a point of commonality between people, and that's how people connect. And so actually, if you're in a networking event, this can be a tip just off the top of my head, and you're from the global north and you go to a networking event, let's say in Lebanon, you can walk and be like, hey, I'm learning Arabic, and this is what I can say, and that will get a lot of attention, and that will be a very good starting point for a conversation later on.
Well, shukra, Balkis. And we're have 5 minutes left in, and it's important to hear when are you done with your master's, in what are you thinking you're gonna do with that master's degree vis-a-vis your career?
Yeah, so I'm ending my master's in 1 year. I'm doing a master's in international affairs at the Lebanese American University, thanks to the MEPI Tomorrow Leaders graduate scholarship. And I want to give a shout out to the LAU MEPI team. I think I'm going for a second master's that is more specialized maybe in peace building or conflict resolution. So that I can work more in that field. And after that, hopefully, I want to further develop the Lead and Impact Institute. It's really a project I'm passionate about, and I want to invest more in it because I wasn't able to do that. And hopefully I can make impact in whatever organization, really. It doesn't have to be the UN. It doesn't have to be the USAID or IREX, even small local organizations where you can make small scale impact is really important. And I always say this about impact is that it's not the kind of, when you seek impact, especially in social work or social change or peace building, it's not something that you can see the result of directly. You can spend years working on a project and you don't really know that you've made impact unless someone would maybe randomly talk to you and say, hey, I remember you from years ago and you taught me this and that. And this actually happened to me with people I don't even remember. But at that time, I didn't know I impacted them. It's only when they reached out to me. And so you never know, and you might never know. So you just have to continue doing the work that you do, believing that, you actually are doing something positive. It doesn't have to be worldwide. It doesn't have to be large scale, because impact is built. And when you change things locally, nationally, they will change regionally and internationally. And so, no matter where you are, anything little that you can do can make a difference either now or later on in the future. And so, yeah, this is the way I think about it, really. And of course, we need to learn. I always say that learning is a lifelong process. So you never stop learning, no matter how much you know. And we need to have practical experience. We need to have, that degree, that research experience. It all really, it falls under the same umbrella of trying to make impact. And so, yeah, that's basically the way I see things.
Okay, thanks, Balkis. So I'll ask one more question, then Kata will ask a question and wrap up. So I love learning is one of the most important things for just staying mentally healthy and having a strong profession. So what is one or two skills that you are developing yourself or that you think changemakers need to have to be resilient in the chaos of this world?
Yeah, one tip I always give is to actually take a break and step back. And I call that a skill because it's very hard to do when you're very much involved in social work or trying to make social impact or in the peace building field. It's very easy to go all in and give your time without really thinking about consequences. And I have suffered from that myself, and I've had burnouts before. And so learning how to take a break and learning when to take a break is also a skill. So that's very essential, because at the end of the day, if you're not feeling good yourself, if you're not happy with your work, if you don't really connect to your why anymore, you wouldn't leave impact at all. You need to start with yourself so that you can impact others. So if you think about it that way, because I know in our field we tend to feel guilty when we take time off because there is so much to do and so little time to do it. But if you think of it this way, that you need to be perfectly well yourself, or at least well, to deliver certain work, you'll know that it's very essential, and hopefully you learn to do it and try to manage and find the time to do it, so that you can, advance your work, whatever it is. Oh, you're on mute, Greg.
Kata's going to get the last question and wrap up.
I think I'm gonna wrap up. I want to say, Balkis, that when you said that you wanted to follow a master's with another master's, I was like, no, 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 that's not PCDN advice. Don't do that. So everyone, please don't do what Balkis is gonna do. But then you talked about burnout, which is it's a topic because I think a lot of us in the social impact world have had it. I myself, I have been open. So then I like that advice. So follow some of Balkis. No, I'm kidding. Like, I think what we try to do here is because there's no formulas or secret sauces, it's just highlighting people's experiences. And Balkis, I can't wait to see everything you're going to do. But also, I am very glad to hear that, behind this amazing person and professional, you're also thinking of how to take care of yourself. I think that's a great note to finish. And we finish on exactly the half an hour as we promised. Thank you, everyone. This is a very rough experiment to force me to shower when I do the podcast, but also so you can watch and listen. And thank you, Rotary, for allowing us to continue to bring amazing professionals like Balkis. And thank you, all of you, for listening, for showering. And if you continue with this, one day I'm going to show you our kitten or cat, who is a beautiful sunflower. She's snapping right now, so she's taking a break. But thank you, everyone, and
Thank
most
you.
especially Balkis. It was
Thank
fantastic to
you.
meet you, and I look forward to looking you up in LinkedIn.
Thank you. Thank you so much.